And welcome back to Effortless Ecology. I'm Sierra, and I'm thinking about how Happy New Year! Happy New Year! Happy New Year based on the Gregorian calendar that most of us live our life based off of, right? And so that is a 12-month year from January to December. And so welcome into 2026. And what's coming up for me today in thinking about effortless ecology, the concept of the way that we as humans are connecting with our larger environment and our human and non-human neighbors and the life and the world that we want to see. Rituals and ceremonies and just the specific changes, like the timeline that we can follow of life is pretty significant. And I think it's funny because, there's some people who are always like really gung ho about, you know, um, New Year's resolutions. And then there's a lot of people who are like, well, it's really just, arbitrary. The date that we change the new year, it's not actually the new year, et cetera, et cetera. And I actually agree with both of those. I agree with both. I can totally see both sides. And for me, I find that I personally can kind of shift between the two opinions depending on the year. And so there's one school of thought, or maybe not even school of thought, but just one idea that, you know, when the new year would actually be, and in the Middle East and in Persia specifically, Persian New Year is celebrated during the spring equinox, right? And so, like the concept of spring cleaning, and right, it's the end of the winter and the beginning of the growing season, which really makes sense naturally as the new year is the new cycle of growth, right? And at the same time, I also, January 1st comes for us on the heels of the winter solstice, which is around December 21st, usually during the holiday season. And so the beginning of winter, which also makes sense for me, right? It's like we're starting during this hibernation period, kind of, reflecting on what's happened during the last year and, building up our strength and energy and ideas to then kick off the spring. So either way, I think what's fun and important to think about is like, what does it mean to you? Right? And with ecology, right? Ecology is the study of an organism in its habitat and in its environment around it. And so that means that in ecology, the organism, effortless ecology, the organism starts with us. And so this month in January, we're deciding right now that the month of January gets to be about us as organisms and what we are experiencing and what we want to experience in our role within our larger ecosystem and ecology. And so, maybe you're one of the people who doesn't particularly like resolutions, right? Maybe you're not a huge fan of New Year's resolutions. It feels really pointless. And to that, I'll just ask why. Like, I'm really curious why that might be. And so, something that I think it could be is that a lot of things feel really arbitrary right now. Everything in reality is meaningless and arbitrary until we put meaning to it. And that's something that we can choose every day, right? You can choose that every day is a new day and a new exciting day, or you can choose that every day is the same as the day before, right? Those are two different schools of thought and two different perspectives and perceptions of the world that we're living in, the reality that we have. And I guess really the question is, which world do you want to live in? Do you want to live a life and in a world where everything is the same, everything is arbitrary, nothing really matters, and it's pointless? Or does it feel better to live a life where every day is a new possibility, a new adventure, and you can choose your game, right? I prefer that one. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it can feel really hard to wake up and like carpe diem that shit, right? But we can still try. You can still try. And I guess, right now, just being in the first week of the new year, that's really what's on my mind of like choosing to make this time matter, choosing to frame January 1st, the new year, the new calendar year as we experience it in Western society, experiencing New Year's as a ceremonial time for us to reflect and choose something different for our life. Because this can be powerful. New Year's resolutions are usually about improving your life in some way or another, doing something that you've been meaning to or wanting to and committing to it. And that's something really powerful about commitment and making a choice to live a life that is better for you, right? If you're making your environment better, right? And you're coming and for being in the world in a more better, more fuller version of yourself, how might that affect, the people around you? If you start looking at life as being every day is a new adventure and every day I can choose something new versus every day is the same old shit, different day, how might that change the way you get to interact with the people in your life? And the people that you love and the people you haven't even met yet, right? How would it change if you know that you can make a difference in your life and the world around you? How would that change the way that you interact with everything? Your parents, your friends, your people, your environment, your work, your nation, this globe, as well as with yourself, that relationship that we have with ourself. So all of that to say, it's New Year's. It's New Year's. Happy New Year's. And what I'm wondering in terms of effortless ecology and what I'm going to ask you is what are you going to do about it? Right? Because as organisms in ecology, we can and we do make an impact on the world around us. And it can either be intentional or unintentional. So what kind of an impact do you want to have? Do you want to choose your story or do you want your story to be written for you? Because when every day is the same old story, that's kind of like you're not really the one writing it. If you want to make a change and make a difference, then you get to write your story. You get to plant the seeds. You get to walk among the trees. You get to choose your path through this world. So that's what I'm just leaving you to think about today. I know there are some, everyone has different opinions and feelings about New Year's and New Year's resolutions. And so today I'm just leaving you with that thought. For the month of January, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the individual organism, as in you and I, in the terms of effortless ecology and what it looks like for us as an organism to be in relationship with our ecosystem and those around us. So, as always, thanks for stopping in. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, follow, share. I would love all of that. If you have any thoughts or questions, I'd love if you would comment as well. And tune in next time and we'll chat a little bit more about effortless ecology. See you then.